Good afternoon, everybody. So as everyone's joining us, welcome to our virtual lunch series. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back for another one of our lunches that we've been hosting, thank you for coming back. Today, we have a very special topic we're going to work through, and we've got a huge amount of people that are joining us as well. So I'm going to let everyone sort of just flow through. There's more and more people that I've got to admit. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Paul Jantz. I look forward to taking you through again our next educational little session here that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about growth today. We're going to run through areas of internal growth. We're going to run through areas of external growth.
So if you want to build 50, it's got to be 50 all up, not 50 plus GS.
Okay, I might mute everyone, and Mel, just ask you to unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
That means we don't have to listen to someone talking about GST.
I actually posted a video on my stories yesterday of how GST actually, why it's there and why it's needed. My friends were like, why are you posting this on Instagram? I was like, because GST is cool. And they were like, no, it's not. No. It's like, oh.
So let me just make sure I've got everything else coming through here. So there's going to be more and more joining us throughout the session. So we will probably see a number of little faces on there now, and I'm still admitting people as we go through. So look, we're going to run through some really, really cool stuff today. But is that DMAC with his mask on? Hello, DMAC. Mate, so all good. I'm just admitting more people. So yeah, there's a number of key things we're going to run through today. I think one of the other key things around growth as well, and even sort of Mel and I were talking about this a little bit offline, is how we measure it. Where do we store that information? What's the activities we're going to go through weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly? How all that can actually get measured as well, so that we can quantify all the sorts of things that Mel's been doing as well at Clyne Partners. So look, I think given the fact that, where are we? Let me just, oh, what's happened there? Okay. I've let a few more people in. Hang on, there's a lot more people I've got to let in.
I'm jealous of all these people in offices. Melinda, you're in a full boardroom. What's that? You look so foreign. There's a whiteboard. Yeah,
looking for those people that aren't in, I think only New South Wales and Victoria are still in probably lockdown. So I have my glass of wine here because technically it's past 12 o'clock here. So for those of you that are in Queensland and it's a little bit earlier, have one anyway. I know I'm going to enjoy my glass of red. I was in detox last week, so this week's no detox.
I like the, Nathan, your cozies. What do you call them in this country? Your cozies are something different. They're yeah.
Stubby holders.
Stubby holders. Such a weird name. Makes absolutely no sense.
He's got his beard. Good job. All right, let's get into today. So welcome everybody again, and I hope you're going to enjoy the session that we're going to take everyone through. Again, I'm admitting more and more people. So it's going to be a great little session. Hopefully we're here for about 45 minutes. Mel, I might start with, look, I suppose we're going to run through a number of key areas, and these were all started, I'll call it probably, 19, 20 months ago. We started these virtual lunches just to provide various topics, educational workshops, I suppose, to bring people together. And it's great that they're still so popular. And I thank everyone for joining us today. Mel, I'm going to start with you. So for those of you that don't know who you are, I was lucky enough to have you as a guest of our Chewing the Accounting Fat show probably a few months ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago now. It's hard to believe we're in October, but maybe for those people that don't know you, maybe share a little bit about you and your background, and then we'll get into today's session.
Sure. I'll put my LinkedIn in the chat a little bit later if you want to check it out. I'm currently a part of 7 different organizations. I am the head of growth and engagement at Clyne Partners Chartered Accounting, but as of last Friday, Clyne Partners fired me to hire me because I have had some interest from some other companies for the last 6 months to do what I do now, but do it for other accounting practices, also some law firms I'm going to start supporting. So I have just started my own company and I already have a team underneath me. So I didn't start with like a startup going like, it's going to be slow going. It literally was like, I need 9 proposals out within 2 weeks. Here's my team. Let's go. I was the vice chair of Democrats Abroad for about 3 years to support Joe Biden. I am an advisor for She's the Boss. I am a mentor for Business in Heels. I am a educator for We Aspire. And probably some more things that I'm forgetting. I'm a founding member of Antipodes Theater Company. So there is a working staff of.
Oops.
It's okay, you muted me.
Sorry.
And also I've built an advisory boards for a couple of companies as well. I'm kind of a hyperactive human being. I always have been. As you can see, there's little note cards on my board and I wake up every day and I just go. And I have to stop myself from working and then I'll switch into more work, but usually around the theater or I'm also bankrolling a new women's publication magazine called Reflections With, which is going to support business women within the workforce and actually make a magazine for us that looks like us. Yeah, but tying back around, I do growth and engagement. So anything from the internal to the external, I kind of come into a company, I see what they need. And I started doing that when I was about 25 by accident. A recruitment company in New York City asked me to come in and figure out what this guy did. So these guys up high on levels, one of them made $300,000 a year, was like, I quit and walked out. I was hired to come in and build a manual of what I thought this guy did, went through his emails. And that was the first moment I realized that he didn't do anything and that this human being making all this money at the top floor on Fifth Avenue. And I was like, I can do this. If this guy's a businessman, I was like, I can do this. So from that moment, I just kind of had the confidence to kind of plug in. And I've been helping, I'm from Silicon Valley, so I was raised with technology at my fingertips. My uncles worked at Apple and Microsoft, so I don't have any formal training in social media or technology, but I grew up with it literally down the street. Netflix was started about a mile away from my house, and the CEO used to deliver my little DVDs in the very beginning. So I was always around that type of energy. I don't know. I think that's it.
Yeah, the good part is what some of the key things we're going to run through today is all about what you've done, not what you talk about, not what you have tried to do, but what you've actually done. And I think more importantly, we're also going to have the ability to ask questions. So again, to anyone that's got questions, let me just double check. Why isn't it down there? Why can't I see Q&A in there anyway? I'm not quite sure why, but we will have the opportunity to even unmute lines and talk. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. For whatever reason, the chat bar is not there. So something's happened there with the Zoom, which I apologize for, but we will have the opportunity to open this up. But what we're going to run through today is some critical factors around what you've done at Clyne Partners, why you've done it, and hopefully share some of that, I'll call it intellectual property, with all of the firms that are online today, which is really, really important. So grab your pens. We are recording this as well. So if you want to see the recordings, I'm not quite sure if all of you guys know, we have all of our stuff, the Tuning Accounting Fad, our podcasts, our virtual lunches, all go onto our YouTube, Professional Partners Plus YouTube channel. So if you ever want to get this content, that's where it's going to go very, very soon after today. So Mel, let's get into today. Let's talk about, some of the key things. And you sort of mentioned before about internal growth, and we're going to talk about internal and external growth. What comes first, internal or external growth?
Internal, absolutely. So we all know the accounting firms that have really good marketing, and yes, I can make a great marketing package for you, and I can get, leads for you and clients looking at you and engagement. But if your house on the inside is not in order, it doesn't matter how good the outside of the house looks. If they walk in and the water's not running and things aren't working, they're going to leave. They're going to leave. The people are going to leave that live inside the house. So your employees, as well as clients, will leave if the inside of the house isn't in full function. And right now, more than ever, that is more important than ever. We have all gone through a year and a half of a worldwide pandemic. Every single human being that we are in contact with has been affected, which means that your workers and yourself, it's more important right now than ever to make sure that the culture and the happiness of the employees is top tier. Because if not, in the next year, it's going to be a massive fluctuation in between. There's a lot of research. A lot of what I speak about is already researched. It's Harvard Review, right? So Harvard Review says that a study came out that people working 2 days at home and 2 days within the office is the best flexible environment for productivity. So productivity increases when people work 2 days at home by 16%. But innovation drops off if you don't have people ever connecting. Innovation is key, so you need to have time where they come into the office and spend time with each other, but you have to make that valuable. If people are just coming into the office again and opening a laptop and hiding in a room, there's no value to that whatsoever. So also the 4-day work week, I'm just going to keep going. There's a lot of information. The 4-day work week will be the future. And the quicker that we get to that, the better. Now, accounting firms classically and law firms, a lot of professional services, everything I just said to you, you hate. You hate so much because everyone's in the office. You like that. You like the long hours. Most accountants, they work more than 8 hours a day anyways. We all know this because there's no way that you can finish a file within 8 hours a day. So how do you create more of a flexible environment for people to want to come into the office? Because people don't want to at this moment. And that's something that we are going to, yes, Paul?
So let's try and break that down a little bit. Let's work through to, because I agree, you're going to provide a lot of information to everyone today. So, but if we want to break that down, let's bring that into, let's say, your experience based on Clyne Partners and what you've been doing there. Let's bring that into play to say, what are the top 3 strategies for internal growth? And I think you've mentioned a couple implicitly just then, but let's try and add some meat to the bone to try and give some real meat to this.
So in your hiring practice, unless you're hiring an accountant that needs to be very like a senior level accountant or a graduate, if you're just hiring admin staff and things like that, anyone can be hired to do that. Anyone can be hired to call the ATO all day because that's usually what the admin staff does. So it's really important that the admin staff, you're hiring people that you think are going to be a good cultural fit for all the other employees that are involved. So it's more about the energy they give off. Stop looking at resumes where we're going down 10, oh, do they have all this admin experience? We don't need to do that anymore. A lot of people, if they have integrity and if they have drive, we can train them to do anything, really, especially with the systems and the processes that are around. So my number one thing is that I've helped a lot in the hiring. I hired the last 5 people for Clyne Partners. And especially on the lower levels, my goal was just to create people that I know that would get along with each other. And in doing so, when we put the call up saying, all right, guys, the office is open, everyone came back to work. Everyone came back into the office because they missed each other, because they wanted to be around each other, because there was laughter, because culture can't just be, we can't just have values and put them on a wall anymore.
Yes.
We have to create it internally within themselves. And how do we do that? From leadership, we have to be inspired and we have to show examples and also show being human, but also it's about creating just the energy within themselves that they like each other. So that's number 1. Number 2 is free coffee. This is really silly. Free coffee at 9 a.m. If you are in the office before 9 a.m., you make the coffee run. Now, if you miss the coffee run, no one gives you a hard time. No one's going to be like, excuse me, where are you? You are 10 minutes late. Doesn't matter about that anymore because we know that people do their work because they've been working from home for a year and a half and they have proved it that they get their work done. So if they're 10 minutes late, does not matter. So 8:30 is when we start work, but if you miss the 9 a.m. coffee run, it's more of a personal game and everyone's in their seats by 9 a.m. Also, open work plans. This is more difficult now that we have COVID, obviously. but open work plans where people can actually ask each other questions. Oh, Nathan, you guys are looking at each other up for that one. Open work plans is like, nah. Having spaces where people can obviously go talk to clients, it's very important, where they can go shut in. Being in a more co-working type of spaces is going to help with mental health, but having them together where they can actually communicate and have fun. Also, Friday lunches. Again, this is a lot of money. You're like, why am I spending more money on these people? I already pay these people money to do a job. It's because culture is more important now than ever. And if you don't have flexible working environments, some things that are freebies that make them feel good. And the last thing I really want to talk about is value. If people don't feel valued and appreciated, they will leave. That's it. That's the basis of why, like, I'm doing all this work and no one's recognizing me. You as a partner, it takes you 10 minutes a day. You set it in your calendar and you say, this is my appreciation moment between 3 and 3:10. And you literally go through your Slack and you go through every single employee and you say, Emily, you did a great job today. Jason, that file was unreal yesterday. One moment of appreciation, minimum once a week, but I really highly recommend once a day. You will get loyal staff that will stay with you forever.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't agree more. Even one of the key things that I'll still remember when I started in a role back, I'm going to give up some grey hair here, but I started in a role managing a business of 55 people years ago. And one of the key things that I learned very early on in management is to manage by walking around. I used to grab, not my glass of wine, I used to grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And first thing I did every morning for an hour, it was blocked out of my calendar, was walk around and say hi to people. Say good morning. And it's a bit of a care factor, really. It's amazing how many people would actually talk to you when you actually ask them a question, because it's engagement. So, and it's exactly what you're talking about there. So again, if it's not something you're doing already, it's something you can always start doing.
Yeah. But then I would also add another level to that, is that you have to be careful. If they're under 25 years old, they're not used to people just coming up to them and talking to them, because they're so behind the screen. So just saying a quick message being like, hey, I'm going to come say hi to you, will help do that barrier, because people will get a little defensive and reactive, especially if they're under the age of 25, because they have spent their whole life first communicating here before communicating here. But if you prep them that you're going to communicate here, then they'll be okay. Yeah. But I did have there was a senior person in one of my jobs, and every time they walked around, I was like, oh God, they're coming. Like, oh God, like look down. Like, I hope they don't see us. We've all been in that environment. So it's also making sure that you balance the two, but a quick little message is what I highly recommend. And that kind of goes through all generations, because how we deal with staff in their 60s versus how we deal with staff in their 20s is two very different generations. And you need to identify what their level of communication is and what they value.
It's a good point. It's a good point. And you mentioned Slack before. So yeah, there's a lot of accounting firms using Slack. If you don't know what it is, it's an internal communication tool, sharing files in the cloud, all those sorts of things. So it's something you can definitely look into.
And put a random category within your Slack as well. So you can put funny things in there, whether that's announcing the weather with the funny cat and the sun. Really silly things like that will make someone's day. You have no idea. There's two books. There's two books I want to talk about for internal growth. One book is Fiona Robertson, Rules of Belonging. Fiona Robertson, Rules of Belonging. It is the best culture in the workplace book I have ever read. It's this big. And at the end of each chapter, even if you don't want to read the chapter, there's one page that sums up that chapter. So you can really fly through it, but it has so many tools in it that will help you with how do I get my staff happy? How do I get my staff engaged again? How do I get them back into the office? All these questions that you're asking, that's one book. And then the second book is we've all read it before, but it's How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? Written in 1929. We all read it in college.
Yep.
Read it again. Read it again, for God's sake.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's a classic. It's sort of one of those classics, really. And look, I couldn't agree more. And this is probably where, again, to open up to that, it's the culture of learning as well, which is an important one. So when you're saying get your, I can hear you saying, let's get your backyard in order before we go external.
Inside the house, yeah.
Yeah, so get the inside house first before you go external, which is really important. So let's talk about external then. So let's get into, let's say, what are some of the external growth strategies that you've brought into play at Clyne Partners?
Absolutely. I have one more thing about internal though, software systems. You have to upgrade your software systems. You have to go into the future. Practice Ignition is a great example of something that will streamline your workflow, because you can't keep working on an ancient software system as we go forward. You have to upgrade that. And then we'll go external. Okay, software systems are good. Your staff is happy. People want to work for you because the other staff is happy. Work is going. We're ready to go. Okay, it's ready to sell the house. It's ready to actually sell the product that you are, which is an accountant. And the first thing is your website. Now, a website is out of date if you've built it more than 3 years ago, which is going to make you very angry. I know, but it's super important that your website is upgraded every 3 years. If they click on your website and your system is too slow to keep up, it will literally go to like a loading page, right? For a second before things load, and we get kind of irritated and we're immediately turned off. So it has to be up to speed. Your SEO score has to be high. It's not about having a lot of content. Accountants like to explain too much about what they do. As human beings, we don't know what you do. I don't know what a BAS is for. I don't. I mean, yes, I do now. Obviously, I've worked for an accounting firm for a year and a half, but the average human being doesn't care. They want to know if you're going to do the things that need to be done so they are legal and that they will be able to make money in a proper way. So your website shouldn't be about, these are all the different services that we do, and this is a massive explanation of it. They say, this is the service that we do that you need if you're a small business. This is the service that we need to do if you're an entrepreneur. So it's connecting it back to the identity. So less words, more photos as well. So they also want to know the people that they're working with. And then, yeah, but website needs to be updated every 3 years, and make sure your contact, there's a contact me box on every single page. Every single page, there's a place where they can go, where they can say, contact me, because you want to engage them. Some accounting firms do this fantastic, obviously. Some accounting firms don't have to. The big four, they don't really have to keep up because they have so much traffic coming in that it's not important. But everyone in this room is very, very, very important that you keep that up. Did
you look to change Clyne Partners website when you came in there? Okay.
Yes, but I had no budget, and it was just me.
That's good. Again, all these people have got no budgets. That's good.
Yeah. It's just me, and you can build a website on Squarespace. You can build these websites, but you can also, I highly recommend that the same way that you pay for insurance every year for your company is that you put money aside to pay for the basics of the online for your company. You have to. It's important. The future is there. So that's the first thing. Yep. Do you want to just keep going? Or?
Yeah, go for it. And look, I think it's an interesting one, because there was a stage maybe 3-4 years ago where websites, and this is only my personal opinion, I don't believe you need to go and spend $3,000-$5,000 on a website.
No.
There are some really good, cheap sites out there that you can create that is exactly what Mel said before. Less is more. So, and I actually spoke to a firm about this only this morning, because he sent me his 2-minute video that was, in our opinion, was too long and it was too technical. So try and, the old KISS theory comes into play. All these old type of, the old Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence, the KISS theory. So keep it simple, stupid, less is more, all these little sayings, which are still so relevant, because you've got to be able to get to keeping people's attention quickly, because people nowadays, we've got so many different distractions. Since I've been on here, I've probably got about 30 different notifications on my mobile phone here. That's the world we live in. So we've got to try and get that really quick and short and sharp, which is really, really important.
But it's also about showing the story. So what is the story of this accounting firm?
Yep.
People like stories. So make the website a story. This was founded because I walked out of my big corporate job and decided to start an accounting firm where I could actually help my clients. Write a little story of why it's important to you. You don't need to be untrue to who you are and create like, we're flashy, we're great, we're everywhere. Like, we don't need that. We just need, I'm a human being. Correct. I care about you, and I'm really good at my job.
And if you can say things like that, here's a bit of a challenge for everyone that's on the line. Go and do that. Try and write that, and then maybe even go onto Zoom and record it. And what that brings out is one word, and a lot of people talk about it. It's authenticity. So when you can be authentic, and the person that's going to do a search for you and find you, and up pops your video that explains in 60 seconds, why don't you come and have a chat to us? This is why. This is my story. It really isn't that difficult to do.
And then this is my client stories, and you have your clients write the stories. So the second tier, so after you have your website, Google reviews. If you don't want to do any other social media, that is fine. You need to have your Google business and your Google reviews. Every single client you have say, will you write a review for me? Absolutely. You can take those reviews, you put them everywhere. You put them on Google review, you can copy them into your website, and then you can also put them into your social medias, which I'll talk about next. But that's the second thing. If you're totally
why is Google reviews important?
Because people trust Google. Number one, if I look up something on Google and I'm like, what is this restaurant like? And it just happens to be there. I click on it. It's got 4.5 stars. Immediately I go, doesn't matter how many reviews it has versus 30 versus 60. Yep. If it has almost 5 stars, I'm trustworthy of it. And I'll actually go through it and read it. Even if there's 1 or 2 negative reviews, I immediately will start questioning it and be like, all right, what's up with this? So also you need to keep that space activated.
Interesting.
All right, so the next step is SEO. No one knows what that is. That's okay. Here's the basic deal. When someone
entertain, what's the O for? No, I'm joking.
The main thing is when they search for you, they say, you know what, Jason Knott, I want Jason Knott to be my accountant. I'm going to type in Jason Knott accounting. I don't know what your company is, but I'm just guessing at this moment. Boom. And it has a website. Website's number 1. That's great. And then if the second thing isn't your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, and your Instagram, it's going to be somebody else's name. It's going to be somebody else's website. It's going to be maybe your personal Facebook, which you don't want people to click on. So you want the first thing to be, if they type in Clyne Partners, it's the website, then it's the Instagram, then it's the LinkedIn, then it's the Facebook, then it's the Twitter, then it's the TikTok. Like it's the whole first page. So the audience can't go anywhere else. So even if you're not building a lot of traffic on these sites, which means actually posting a lot, engaging with your community, having them comment and whatnot, having all those things will fill in your Google page of just you. So when they type it in, they see the Google business with a little map. They see all those stars there, and they see the 6 different things. They're legit. Immediately, I think that, and then I click on the website. So do we want to talk about each of this? I know all your faces right now about social media. I'm so sorry, but this is just we got to go here. This is where we got to go.
Let's look. You've mentioned a few there, which is interesting, and there's going to be a few people that say, "Do I need to be on there? Do I not be on there?" So we'll get to that, and I think social media is a big part of. That's probably why people used to think, well, do we need a website if we have our Instagram account? And I would say most people on this particular virtual lunch are on LinkedIn. For accounting firms, certainly Twitter has become a huge platform. So if you're on Twitter or if you're on LinkedIn, they're probably the 2 main ones that I deal with accounting firms every single day. So they're probably the key ones that I find a lot of firms on. So talking about social media, we'll come into measuring all that activity pretty soon. So LinkedIn, Twitter, probably most people feel comfortable with. What are the other popular platforms that we should be on? And you've done this with Clyne Partners, and then we'll get into what should we be posting. Let's talk about that.
Okay, you have to be on Facebook because Facebook has the most powerful search engine.
So you're talking about the company?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Absolutely. The company has to be on Facebook. And the material that you post on LinkedIn, you can post on Facebook as well as posting on Twitter. So that streamline, if you're really grumpy about all those things, which is okay. And the number one thing I always talk about too with all my clients is creating a different relationship with social media. Again, setting a timer in your calendar once a week, that 15-minute calendar, you're like, this is my LinkedIn 15 minutes. And you go on LinkedIn once a week and you make one post. And then that same post, you just can copy it. You can put it on Facebook. You can put it on Twitter. You keep it under 200 words, done. It's across the platforms. You put a couple of hashtags, which we'll talk about later, but you can streamline all of those. But Facebook will always pop up number 2 on Google searches. So it's very important that you have Facebook. The second one is YouTube. Have a YouTube as well. YouTube is where you can put the main information and then share it from YouTube to Facebook, to Twitter. So any videos you post ever, you post first on YouTube and then post to the other platforms.
So if we talk about videos for a second, because I think some firms may be sitting there saying, well, we're not a Melissa David, we're not a Paul Jantz, we're an accounting firm. Where do we get video content from? What have you done with Clyne Partners that you could share with the firms online? To what sort of video content would they start to create?
Anytime there is an update on budget or anytime there is an update on regulations, you write an article about it where you explain it to people, right? And the second thing is you literally video yourself reading that article. And then so it has a visual as well as that. So that's one example. Anytime there's a budget update, done. Anytime you sign a client and you say, hey, is it okay if I use your name? You make a quick little video and saying, so looking forward to working with blah, blah, blah. I'm excited for this next year and the growth with this company. 15-second video, done, post.
I'm just having a quick look to see online. Sorry to interrupt you for a second there, but if you guys there's obviously a lot of people online. If you want to have a look again, there's a firm that we've worked closely with in DMAC, and there's a number of different firms here that will probably know them as well. If you want to look up MW Partners, or even have a look at what Clyne Partners are doing, but Albert Geigel, I don't think Albert's online today, but I don't think he'll mind me saying this. He's chosen to work specifically in the dentistry area. So he only works with dental practices, and he's created a whole heap of different video content. And it's not star-studded. It's not in a studio. You don't have to go to that expense, but he's done it cleanly. He's done it effectively. And all that content that he's created over the last probably 2 or 3 years now is now on his YouTube channel, which is similar. It's on his website, but he's created stuff. So it's about creating that video content that nowadays is so easy just with mobile phones.
Yeah.
The quality, you can put this on a $23 tripod, hit record, oops, don't know what I'm doing there, and start recording. And it's really, really simple. So it's just a matter of getting yourself doing that, isn't it, really?
It is. Again, it's changing your relationship with it. So a lot of energy right now probably that's coming from you is you're like, I'm not going to do this. I don't like this. And you're very defensive about it. And that's normal because you haven't grown up with this. It isn't part of your DNA, but it doesn't only have to be about accounting stuff. We need to stop treating accounting firms and law firms like they're not lifestyle firms. They're human beings, which means that there's one guy I know who literally videotapes his kookaburras. I say that wrong, I know, but I love them. And outside on his porch, he's a 70-year-old man who videotapes his kookaburras, and he literally says, have a great week. And then he just tags his company. That's it. Do you know how much traffic he gets? So much from birds. And I think he's a broker. Like, it makes no sense, but it's about starting to treat accounting firms like lifestyle firms. So each campaign I run is angled towards a different demographic of people. And I'm trying to figure out what they like, what they need, what are their values. And I push the boundaries of the branding to get that audience in. So anyone in this room, anything that you like, whether you have birds or it's surfing or it's kayaking or you're doing something that's outside or even on the inside, making a good cup of coffee, take a picture of the coffee cup, and then making the best cappuccino in lockdown. Hope you have a good week, and then tag your company. Beautiful post. So it's just about that. If you have a beautiful garden, watching the tomatoes grow, just like I'm watching my clients grow. Have a good week. Boom. One little liners. It's just about starting to activate that part of your brain. Yes?
Interesting.
Cool.
Interesting.
So that's video. And then we have, yes. But also, it's time for us to stop treating social media like it's something that it's your job to do. I have been working in this space for 15 years, which means that it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at anything. Most of you have your CPA or your CAs. You work so hard to study and master this craft that when I look at spreadsheets that you guys look at and go, oh, there's a mistake right there, I'm shocked, I'm mind blown. Just because it's so out there doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be treated as the same as a professional. You need to make a budget for marketing. You need to make a budget for this space, because you need to start paying people like me to actually do the work and do it right for you, versus you just throwing shit around and kind of being like, oh, I tried and it didn't work. Well, of course it didn't. You didn't study this. This isn't your job. Your job is to be an accountant. Your job is to be a CEO. We need to stop treating this like it's an extracurricular activity. It's the new world.
So let's stop there and pause for a second. Because you just raised an important point around budget. Now, what I want everyone to think about, and I'm sure there's firms on here I've worked with for a number of years, so you would have all heard me talk about this as well. While it may appear in the expense item of your P&L, it must be treated as an investment. And if you are going to invest in something, you would automatically expect a return on that investment. Let's quickly talk about what I suppose we could be here for another hour, but we don't have that. But your results and we'll talk about 2021 in particular, because 6 months ago you were doing a lot of key things, and you're probably seeing the benefits of that right now in terms of what does that monetary return look like. So our return on investment, what you've been doing for Clyne Partners. And I know we did a short little teaser video on this last week. So you mentioned a number.
Yeah.
Talk about what that number is.
First off, I know that this is the most important thing that you all feel. You're like, yeah, but where's the numbers, right? Where's my actual physical return for this? And investing in this, you must expect nothing. And then everything that comes in is a benefit and a bonus to you. Now, in the last year, let's say you have referrals. That's how most of us get our work. It really is true. I know Harrison. Harrison has been doing my taxes for 20 years. He said, I need an accountant. Let me give you him. That's it. That's the definition of how we go. No one changes accountants unless their accountant has died, unless their accountant has really messed up, or if they don't have one yet. Those are the only 3 times that people need an accountant. And there's a very small window, and they don't go to Google and look them up and say accountants in Melbourne. They literally call their best friend who they've known for 25 years, and they say, who do you know that does good accounting? That's it. And so how do we build a social media marketing platform that pushes into that area where we can be so visual that in those tiny little moments, they can grab us? Also, when you get that referral and they bring it to their team and they say, hey, this guy named Harrison, I think might be good. Oh, let's check him out. The marketing team's going to look at you. Everyone's going to look at you online. They're going to search your name. And if your website isn't up to snuff, if your social media isn't engaged, if the last post you made on LinkedIn was a year ago, they're going to be like, I don't know about this guy, right? And maybe then you'll get the opportunity to have a meeting and confirm with it. But the social media and website building needs to be that in-between area, right? When you get the referral and when they look you up, they go, oh, this guy looks great. So the second that if you do get in, you will, because you'll have so much support in that. So I'll talk about, yes, we've had over $500,000 of new work in this last year. We have. Now, is that a direct result of me? I mean, I freaking hope so. Have the clients grown from these kind of like middle tier companies to we've been getting some really big companies in this last year? Yes, we have. And I do have proof that, yes, 2 of them, the biggest ones that we got came from a referral, but they came from a referral and then went through a massive marketing department. And they went, you want to know what? Clyne Partners looks really fun. They look really grounded. They're really creative with their social media. And the marketing guy reached out to me, was like, this is really fun. This is really cool. And then we were let into the space, into the room, and got a $140,000 client. So yes, absolutely. The level of clients that we've been getting in this last year has lifted us to the next tier, to the next level. I got us invited into the Australian Financial Review Top 100 within 1 year because I made it so loud and so big and so much traffic, between 15 and 20,000 views on LinkedIn alone per month, that they could not look at us. So that's...
And to be fair, to put it into perspective, how many team members does Clyne Partners have?
8.
Yeah. So it's not a big firm. And that's the point I was trying to make here.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about, there's probably a lot of sole practitioners on here, but we're not working with the PwCs of this world. So it's an interesting thought process when you can say $500,000 of new client revenue with what you've been doing just in 2021.
Now, the cold call, right? So that cold kind of aspect, that doesn't really exist for accountants. And us chasing that dream forever and ever, it's just not going to happen. If you're not the Big Four, and if you're not Blue Rock with the super shiny $100,000 marketing budget, it's just not going to happen, right? So it's about creating your resume online on all the social medias that you look so awesome and so ready to work and so professional and all the things that you want to be. The more that you show that outwardly, as referrals start coming in or people just kind of pass by, that's why we're on TikTok as well. That's why Clyne Partners has a TikTok, because people who are 20 years old at this moment, constantly scrolling on TikTok, in 5 years, they're going to need accountants. And their brand, I want them to be like, oh, remember that accounting firm that was on TikTok? Now, that doesn't mean I have the partners doing dances. I do not. That would be absolutely terrible. Trust me, they would not do that. But being in the place where people are looking, why wouldn't you? TikTok is free. Use it. Instagram is free. It's free advertisement. Use it. Facebook is free. Use it. All these platforms are free. Why are we not using them? They're free advertisement.
Yep, 100%. And then that's probably the mindset to get into. It's probably, again, you may want to go and set up your business account, but it's about the content that you put in there. But Mel's just giving you some really, really good things, especially, we're into spring now. The weather's turning. I know it's still bloody cold outside, but the weather's turning in our favor. Yesterday was beautiful. There's some key things in there that you can post that don't require a lot. You just said the tomato plant. You said I don't know how you said it, but kookaburra. There's a lot of different things that you can actually just start doing to get a presence. And I think that's what it's about. Just start doing, the old scenario, something's better than nothing. Start doing something. And I think that's an important message.
And remember that it's not about how many likes you get on it. It's not. And it's not how many traffic things that you get on it originally. It literally will be for the moment. So if someone looks me up, if you look up my LinkedIn, you have 1.5 years of content of, what I stand for. You know what my values are. You know the things I like. You know the things I've shared. My LinkedIn is 1.5 years long resume of information that is valuable for me as a human being. So it's about the future. It's about 4 months from now. If you start posting today, and I think that you should. I personally had 30,000 views in the last 4 days, which means that after this thing, I want you to make a post and say, had a great virtual lunch with Melissa David, who wants me to do more social media for my business. Use me, tag me, and get my traffic to come to you. Like, that kind of tools is really smart. Use Paul. Paul gets a lot of traffic. You can tag Paul in things, being like, had a great lunch with Paul if you don't feel comfortable with me. But it's about starting to engage in that community. Once a week, write an article, put a post up, like something, comment on something. So then when someone looks you up, especially on LinkedIn, if they want to hire you or whatnot, they'll actually scroll through your activity. That's what they do. Make sure you have a banner photo. Banner photo is a photo above your photo. Also, make sure your photo looks like a human being. If you wouldn't have it on your Facebook, why would you have it on your LinkedIn? Why does everyone's LinkedIn photo look like this? Or it's kind of blurry, or they're wearing a wedding photo and holding a drink. Stop it. Just stand in front of a white wall, put a nice suit on, and take your phone and take a photo. You can do it. I promise you. And then upload it. Banner photo.
The top half looks good. The bottom half is different.
Yes. And if you need help with that, I will help you. It takes me 5 seconds. You don't need to pay me. I will help you. For every person that's ever interviewed for me and for my company, I have a meeting with them before where I actually help them with their LinkedIn, because I know that the partners are going to click on them and click on their photos. And if they look like, or something like that, I'm like, oh, okay, let's fix this. Let's help you.
It's true. It's true. It's so true. And look, can I just share one thing that, you guys are here because of what we've been doing. Okay. So when I started the podcast series, I'll just give you a few tips myself. Okay. Podcast series, we use an app called Anchor. Check it out. It's owned by Spotify. It's free.
It's free.
You can record, edit, push out content to Apple Podcasts and to Spotify in an instant. Easy. I interview people every single week. I have an online platform that then translates that from the auditory to a visual written that turns into a blog.
Yeah. And your initial reaction is like, I don't want to listen to another podcast. It's not about that. It's about having your voice out there with your message. So when people look you up, they go, they have a podcast. They click on it. Oh, I really liked how they spoke about the new budget. Oh, I really like how they spoke about the new childcare initiation that the government's doing. Whatever it is, they can hear your voice. And it's another moment where you can connect with your future clientele.
100%. It's stuff like that you can create. These virtual lunches, you can create them for your clients. I saw another firm. I saw Wayne come on just before. Wayne Locke's just done a book, and I saw he changed his. So again, he had a book launch. So these are the sorts of things, and there's clever people out there that are helping. There's no doubt. That's what we're here for, to help you with that internal, external growth, and say, how can you start pushing that through your different social media platforms?
Now you don't
content.
Yeah. And you don't need to do a book. You don't need to do a podcast. Let's start with the basics. Okay. Make all your platforms and just do one post a week. That's it. One post. So then you don't because I know that all those things, yes, you can do, because accountants are busy.
Yes.
Accountants are so busy. You guys are the hardest working people in the workforce. You really are. You don't sleep between July and maybe November. You get a slight break, and then you're just prepping for the next tax season. There has to be just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just share. I think the other thing is you can share about you. I'm looking at, sort of DMAC again, and DMAC and I have known us sort of known each other for 20 years. So, but I know he loves his golf. It could be, again, that's the personal, authentic side that comes out, that, he loves golf. You will connect more with people when you do that. That's that authenticity coming out. You could like cooking. You could like whatever it may be. You're sharing that. I saw one of the other firms. I don't think Sam's on here, but Sam Rothberg's been sharing, because it's spring. So he's been sharing his finger limes. He's been sharing his tomato plants. He's been sharing all these things that you go, okay. Suddenly you got something in common. I've got my veggie patch out the back, and this is what we end up talking about. And social media is about starting those conversations. So being social, we're having a social interaction now. So it's not just about liking, it's about commenting. It's about talking. So think about that as well with your own, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Start a conversation and tag someone and let them continue that conversation. That causes other people, and that virality. It's all the algorithms that Mr. Facebook has created that brings all that crap together. And you know what? It works. So just get out there and start doing stuff. Mel, I just want to ask you, because we're getting on to 12:50 now, so we're going to be running probably 5-10 minutes late, so I apologize to everyone, but hopefully you're getting really, really good benefit from this. Tracking some of the activities.
Yes.
So, again, for those of you that know me for a very long time, we talk about key performance indicators. It's not about looking at the scoreboard. It's about the activities that take you to that $500 million of new clientele.
$500 million. Wow.
Sorry.
Let's go there, shall we?
Yeah,
I'll get the vote.
Glass of red. So tell us, what sort of platforms do you use to track your activity and then report back on that activity? Because I think that's just as important.
Yeah. Hootsuite.
Hootsuite.
Yep. Hootsuite. It's great. It does tracking.
H-O-O-T, Hootsuite.
Yeah. Hootsuite, as the Australians say. Sorry. Yes. Hootsuite analytics, great. LinkedIn has their own analytics. If you go to your company page, you can actually just see your own analytics and you can download them as well. It'll tell you what the tier of the person is that's looking at you, and you can see what your main audience is. But to do that, you first have to start putting stuff out there. There's no point of having analytics if there's nothing to track the analytics from. So I was noticing that I was kind of capitalizing on women between 32 and 40. We're doing really, really well. And I wanted to get some of the younger women and involved. And so that's why I started angling campaigns towards that. Versus I realized that our men between 40 and 55 were non-existent, right? So I was like, what's that about? So I turned that up and made some campaigns towards that. And I got some of that audience coming towards me. So analytics on Hootsuite and LinkedIn is what I use. And I download them every Friday and I make a chart and make this magical little chart where I can actually see how much traffic I'm getting. Engagement rate is also really important. So you're able to put stuff out there and you're able to see what the engagement rate is. If it's around 12 to 18%, that's amazing. If you're above 10% on any post that you make, that's great. That means 10% of your audience is actually engaging with the content. I've gotten mine up to about 20%, but that's because I'm looking at it. It's my job. It's my job to look at it and study it and adjust it and have it that way.
Yes,
but
yes.
Hootsuite and LinkedIn. Okay,
brilliant. So there's a few things there. Do you use any particular software to manage those contacts and those leads that are coming through? What have you guys used at Clyne Partners?
Yeah, so we have Hubspot. Hubspot is really great. That's where our deals board is. Also, you can assign who the deals belong to, which is really nice. You can actually change the board and you can see which partner is actually bringing in more money or less money. It's also a great way to organize where the proposals are. So HubSpot, and both of those are free, by the way. You can get free versions of HubSpot and Hootsuite. So they're good tools to use. I use them, love them. You can put the company information, the client information, you can connect your emails into it. So also you can say, oh, when's the last time I emailed this lead? You can click on that. But leads don't naturally come in the same way they used to. I've gotten a lot of work from Instagram because I've been personally messaging people on Instagram. So once your board looks really good, so once on Instagram, you have your 5 lines of posts, you have your little bubbles, you're making some stories. This is a lot of stuff I'm talking at you probably don't understand, but that's okay. Once you have that, then you go to hashtags. Hashtag small business, Melbourne. Yes, you click on that and you go to every single business. And then you click on them, you like them, you put a couple comments on it, and then you message them saying, I really love this flower company and what you stand for. Please let me know if you ever need an accountant.
Yeah.
Done. I've gotten $20,000 of work from that, just going through and just messaging people. And the $20,000 are people right at the beginning as well, so they will grow. They're just starting their company, so it's just doing their BASes and tax returns. It's not doing the advisory part of it. It's not doing everything else. But the Instagram is usually connected to the person that owns the business. So it's a direct way to get to them. Stop mass emailing everyone. You don't like it when you get it. They don't like it when they get it. No one likes it. Unless you have a personal introduction to that person who said to that person, I'm going to share your contact with this person. Boom, done, fine. But stop it. Stop cold emailing, massing. It's driving me crazy. It's driving everyone crazy. No one likes it.
Yeah, look, I think what I'll do is, if there's any questions that you'd like to unmute yourself and ask Mel a question. We've gone through a lot today, so I'm happy to do that. I've always loved to make these as interactive as possible, and I've got to look into why that chat bar is not there. Something's happened with my Zoom. Does anyone like to ask Mel a question?
It's probably so much. Well, people are raising their hand. The first thing is the internal. We can talk about the external all we want, but if you're internal, if you aren't happy working, and if the people around you aren't happy working in this moment, you have to start there before anything else.
And that's a really important point, because you could spend you could have a budget and you could bring in $500,000 of new work, but if the people behind the scenes aren't there to service that work, or to look like that, you're going to lose them pretty quickly. So that's just important to see that as an investment into the business moving forward.
And if you make your employees feel valued and appreciated and give them a flexible environment to work, that's the most important for staff retention. As we all know, there is no recruitment companies right now can find us replacements. It's not possible. It's not happening at this moment. So staff retention is so important. And people in this last year and a half have found out what really matters to them, and that's being home with their family. And that's if you're a mom, that's actually being able to go pick up your kids from school, come back home and continue working, and having that moment where you can actually be in the space of a flexible environment. So those are the most important things for the next year, is staff retention and making a flexible working environment that works for you as the employer and works for them as the employee.
Yeah. Brett Cox here. I was just wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned the 4-day week.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that working? We've actually reduced the hours we work on a Friday as a bit of a benefit to staff, but how are you seeing going to that next level of actually 4 days?
So I personally am doing it for my company. But it's great. People actually get work done and they hustle because they know there's a long weekend. But what do you mean? Like, is it working or whatnot?
Yeah, like, is it working? Do you have a set day for everyone? Like, we actually just only have the firm functioning for 4 days a week, or do you have rotation about the days people have off? How do you do it?
So Clyne Partners does 5 days still at this moment. So I'm not in charge of them at this moment. I am only in charge of my own company. But the research shows that is beneficial for everybody. So we need to just look at research versus looking at personal experience. It's kind of like, we've been trained in an environment to work 5 days a week. And in accounting firms, we sometimes work on the weekends to get things done. That's just how it goes. But we need to look at an entire community. So Norway, we need to look at a whole country that's done it and the benefits and the research that comes from that, as well as the Harvard Review, which is my Bible, honestly, because they put so much money into research and what they're actually saying what the future looks like. So we don't know. We are the test cases, and COVID has kind of launched us forward. This was going to be kind of a slow kind of thing, a flexible and working environment. And COVID was just like, nope, which has kind of given everyone, whiplash, including partners that panic and are people working. And then we all noticed that they were. So, yeah, what we'll have to see is the definition, but the research shows from what has already been done in other countries that it's beneficial and it will help. And it's also about encouraging that day off to be a self-care day. So make it about self-improvement, giving them resources, whether that's mental health resources or vacation ideas, where to drive in Victoria per day. So being an active employer of not just being like, okay, that Friday is that Friday, being like, this is a self-improvement day that we are giving you. And then they're going to come back on that Monday so freaking happy because you organized a hiking trip on that Friday that you didn't pay for, but you organized. Hey, there's a hiking trip here. Some of us are going to go team building. That's great. Making a flexible environment. So the mom who does actually need to sleep on that Friday can sleep. But the young guys who were 26 years old, who are like, let's party, went on a hiking trip together and had that cultural experience.
Good point. Hitesh, you have a question?
Yeah, just adding on to that. Paul knows that I do about 3.5 days a week. So that 5-day thing is a bit alien just for me. But my team, I offered them a 4-day week back in January last year. And my Australian team came back and said, no, we don't want it. So it was, and then I've got a Filipino team, which for them to go down to a 4-day week would be absolutely alien for them. So what would your suggestion be to try and get that going? Because I've got a team over here who actually wants to do 5 days instead of a 4-day. And I'm happy for them to do a 4-day.
Is that because of their workload though?
No.
Okay. Because something I've noticed in the past is that I have had to turn off accountants' computers on Saturdays because I see them pop up on Slack and I'm like, what are you doing?
Okay, my team basically comes in at 9 and leaves at 5.
That's great.
They never do it.
If the workflow, and that's also something that's not another thing to do with you, but on another note, is a lot of companies, we don't hire somebody until everyone else is so exhausted right? So we need to start thinking proactively versus reactively, being like, oh God, we have a new client, everyone's exhausted, and they're working 5 days a week. If someone wants to work 5 days a week, that's the culture. So the rules of belonging that we talked about earlier, right? Okay, so George says that he didn't want to do 5 days. Okay, so it's a part of the culture to be that 5 day a week, and they don't want to be the first one. But
Maybe.
yeah, I would read that book first and then see, but I'm very happy for you. Like,
I guess
congratulations.
I think the question more is because if I went to my Australian team and said, look, I'm going to insist on this, I want you to take the day off, they probably will. My Filipino team would absolutely freak out because it's just not in their culture to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about you just setting the boundaries. And if a boss says, you guys, they're always going to want to make you happy, and they're always going to want to show you that they want to work above and beyond. So if you actually just set the example and say, I don't work on Fridays, you don't work on Fridays. Yeah. Like that's this. If an emergency email comes in, I will call you. But if you have to set the boundaries. You can't be willy-nilly I grew up in schools that were like, what do you feel right now? Right? Hate that stuff. Really. Structure first, then freedom. But you have to set the structure. This is the structure. If you're not here by 9 a.m., you miss the coffee run. Okay? Fridays, we don't work. Yeah, I don't care if you want to work or whatnot, or if you have a file that you need to do, they can if they need to, if they're at home or whatnot. But it's like just known that you have to set the boundaries and be clear, because they're going to want to make you happy and they're going to want to make you proud. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Hitesh. You may have a super team there that doesn't want to have time off. That's interesting.
It's a very American thing as well. Like in America, we have no annual leave. We have no sick leave. So I was taught from a very young age, and there's no there's a 401k, but we put money into it ourselves.
Right.
So my dad is 74 years old and he's not stopping working a minute. Like the idea of taking a vacation is ridiculous. So the average American gets 2 weeks off. So 5 days and 5 days of vacation unpaid. They only take 9 out of the 14 days because we're so bred to work for this environment. So it's just about the culture. And if you're sick, you go to work. And we have 30-minute lunches in America. That's it. You eat at your desk.
Very, very different culture over there, that's for sure.
So it's just about the culture.
I agree. Look, it has clicked over to 103. I thank everybody for staying online. I apologise, we've gone a little bit over, but really, really, really good learnings and really good content. And more importantly, Melissa, thanks very much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And just if everyone wants to get started on something, I think there is a little bit of something there that everybody could take depending on what stage you're at. Not everyone's going to be at ground zero. Not everyone's going to be at the higher level, but there's going to be certain key areas there that you can take away and say, how do I start doing this? Or how do I enhance doing that? So to everybody that's joined us on behalf of the professional partners, thank you again. Melissa David, thank you very much. Your wealth of knowledge is amazing. Great little claps. Look at that. That's awesome.
You're welcome. And connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. If you're like, Mel, my banner photo, what is this? I'm available. I'm a human being and I'm always online. So you can just write me, and I'm a workaholic because I love it, and I will write you back.
She is a workaholic and she will come back to you. That's one of the great things about this young lady. So, and she'll always give you some really good constructive feedback. So to all of you that have joined us, thank you very much. Our next Chewing the Accounting Fat show is, holy crap, I think it's October 21. So Jason and I, we've got a panel this time. So you'll have an invitation in your inbox soon, if not already. We've got a panel and we're talking about mastering advisory. So a lot of people, a lot of the firms that want to go down this road of advisory and what the hell is advisory. And we've got some really, really great panelists, 3 in particular. They're going to be joining Jason and I. So hopefully you can join us on the 21st of October. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. It's hard to believe it's already Thursday. If you're in New South Wales or Sydney and coming out of lockdown, enjoy it. Freedom Day Monday. For the rest of Victoria, another 4 weeks. But hopefully we're out of there soon. In Queensland, well, good luck. You guys are already enjoying it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Mel.